Protests across Chicago on Saturday with more expected as ICE looks to ramp up crackdown efforts. This as President Trump traded barbs with Illinois Governor Pritzker on social media about the enforcement operations. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin is live in Chicago with the latest. Hello, Mike.
Operations have not materialized. What have materialized here in the city of Chicago are protests. 3 different protests took place yesterday. Yesterday evening, we saw hundreds gather in Millennium Park. A lot of the usual actors that we see at different protests. And the reason for that is 11 different groups that often protest around the city of Chicago came together under the umbrella of the Coalition Against the Trump Agenda. So they were focused on the Trump agenda, but you saw people protesting everything from the Palestinian cause to trans rights. They marched around the city without major incident. There was another protest that formed up in Broadview, and that is because an ICE processing facility is being set up there on a temporary basis. There were also protests at the Naval Station north of Chicago, and that is where ICE is largely headquartering, or certainly they're using that as a logistical hub. The whole thing was inflamed yesterday by a post on Truth Social from President Trump, in which he channeled Robert Duvall from the movie Apocalypse Now, saying, "I love the smell of deportation in the morning." That triggered the ire of Illinois Democrats who had all sorts of negative things to say about that particular post. So while all the protests are going on, we still haven't seen major ICE operations. What we did see yesterday, 2 homicides and 5 people were shot in the city of Chicago since noon yesterday. Mike, back to you.
Mike Tobin live in Chicago. Mike, thanks very much.
Got it.
For more, let's bring in New York Congresswoman and member of the House Intelligence Committee, Claudia Tenney. Congresswoman, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be on.
So you've heard about the pushback from officials there in Chicago about the federal surge, perhaps in the Windy City. What's your take on all of it?
Look, the people in Chicago want to have a safe city. You cannot have a prosperous city without having law and order, and this is all that we're calling for, and President Trump is straightening that out. I can tell you, I finally got back to D.C. last week and could see a marked difference in what has happened with the National Guard providing logistics, providing a presence, providing a deterrent value for the people of Washington, D.C. And now the people of Chicago would be well served to have at least the National Guard help with some of these logistics operations, although it's a little bit of a sticky issue for President Trump to use this, to do this without the consent of the mayor and obviously the local officials. But look who's protesting. It's the same old Democrat, far left protesting groups that are opposing security, safety, and the hope for prosperity in the city of Chicago. When the people in Chicago are having to close down their buildings, and you're seeing continued murders and shootings going on because they don't have a strong police presence. But remember, Governor Pritzker didn't have any problem bringing the National Guard in when they had to protect the Democrats at their national convention. You know, so that wasn't a problem for that situation. So I just hope the people of Chicago get an opportunity to have a prosperous city with free of crime, so their children can go to school and they can prosper again.
So here in Washington, the Army has extended the National Guard's orders to be on duty here through November. Maryland Governor Wes Moore on the other side suggests that's a waste of money. Let's play him and I'll get you to react.
The National Guard are responsible during this occupation for 744 cubic yards of mulch spread, 886 bags of trash collected, 270 feet of fence painted. You know what we don't have stats on? How many illegal guns has the National Guard seized? How many drug busts has the National Guard done?
You work here, you live here part-time. How do you respond to the governor of Maryland?
Well, first of all, he was in the military, so he should know that the military perform a wide array of jobs. The National Guard is part of a beautification effort, and they also are doing a lot of logistics, and they are responsible, as Pam Bondi has pointed out and done many press conferences, showing the number of illegal guns seized, the number of arrests, the curfew numbers, the lack of murders in the District of Columbia. So for him to just point out that they're only on the beautification efforts is obviously, he's running for president. He's trying to set himself up as against Trump and not really promoting the good things that are happening in the District of Columbia, which I've witnessed last week, my first time back since the summer recess.
Then there's the Trump administration's crackdown on narco-terror groups. Here's Secretary of State Marco Rubio on that front.
The United States has long, for many, many years, established intelligence that allow us to interdict and stop drug boats. And we did that. And it doesn't work. Interdiction doesn't work because these drug cartels, what they do is they know they're going to lose, 2% of their cargo. They bake it into their economics. What will stop them is when you blow them up, when you get rid of them.
What do you make of this more aggressive approach in fighting the drug war?
Look, Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, is doing a fantastic job. It is so important to go beyond interdiction and actually seize the assets and actually show force against these people who are now designated as foreign terrorist operations or organizations, which means we can use more intelligence against them. We can freeze their assets. We can prevent them from really committing one of the worst crimes that we've seen in our country, which is this: over 100,000 Americans die every single year from overdoses. And this is, Russia and China teaming up with these narco-terrorism groups, destroying our country from within, destroying our children. So I think going the next step and actually, calling these people what they are, they're terrorist organizations. They're destroying the United States. They're destroying our future. And Marco Rubio is exactly right. This is what he has to do. And President Trump is leading the charge of making sure that we are telling our enemies we're serious. We're serious about going after criminals, and the rule of law is going to be upheld. They're not going to abuse our country and profit off this narco trafficking. And also, they make almost as much money, if not more, on human trafficking. And that's why they need to be designated as foreign terrorist organizations. And I really applaud the president and our Secretary of State for the terrific job they're doing in saving Americans and holding these people accountable.
We've seen a night and day change at our border with the border crackdown. Does it make sense that the narco groups would be trying to find another way into the United States by water?
Well, they never stop because this is how they profit. This is how they make money. And I represent most of the northern border of New York, which we have more than 90% of the people on the terror watch list have come across the northern border as of last year's statistics. Those numbers have gone down, but that hasn't stopped them. I have the Niagara River. I have the St. Lawrence Seaway in my district, and we have a lot of waterways to come through the north. But certainly they will do everything they can. They have billions in resources from profits they made certainly over the years, and especially under the Biden administration, but also coming from Russia and China and their nefarious involvement in some of these things. So yes, we need to do everything we can. We need to give all the resources we can to the Customs and Border Protection and everyone that is involved in making sure we keep our communities safe.
Congressman Claudia Tenney of the great state of New York, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.